Wow. I'm so excited because you guys are going to give some amazing answers, and I know women are going to just flip out. No pressure. No pressure at all. Okay, I'm going to rewind yet again. So we've had several webisodes of More Than a Conqueror, and when the women are on this panel, we are just girlfriends and we hang out and we talk. And I'm grateful for that because people have felt comfortable enough to write into us and ask us those questions that they really want to know, especially when they found out that you guys are going to be here. So one of the first questions was, what is a good man? Who wants to tackle that one?
Can I?
Yeah, go for it. Come on.
Ready. I really feel like one of the most important things for me was to be safe. I think I've learned, and I know that maybe I won't pretend that I know a lot about women, but I know that one of the most important roles a man can have in a woman's life is to be a safe place for her. And so I felt like, if nothing else, be safe. Like, help her feel comfortable. And just like that there's like a place she can go, and the more like a warm blanket you feel, the more likely she will come running into your arms. And so, like if I really wanted to be like welcoming and loving, I default to safety. And I would say like that would be the thing that I would encourage women to look for is safety. And I would encourage men to be safe for the women that they are seeking.
Great. Yeah. Okay. A safe man. Anybody else?
I think a man who knows who he is, who's secure in who he is. He may not know, obviously, everything that God has for him in his future, but if he is constantly trying to figure out who he is or what he believes or what he stands for, if he's confused in what direction he's going, then it's like getting in a car with somebody who has no idea where they're going. And then if you get frustrated being lost and you start dating a man who's lost, then that just kind of comes with the territory. So I think someone who is secure in that, because then he won't try to gain strength or value by taking advantage of the person he's dating. I've seen people in relationships where if a guy is insecure, then he dates a woman who has insecurity written all over her. Wow. So I'm going to find someone who I can make myself feel good by putting down, by mistreating, by using someone who will let everything in their world be about me. Because then in this one arena, that's going to make me feel like a king. Wow. So I'll get someone who's going to completely sacrifice himself for me. Yeah. And if you see a guy like that, they spot women like that, and they get in relationships with that because they're trying to feed their own insecurity. So they find someone who is more insecure than they are, who will look to them and then feed them. So the woman is losing everything, but the guy's gaining everything he's looking for. So I think a guy who is secure, who finds his security from other things versus just her.
And that's the beginning of a toxic relationship. And a lot of times, I can speak from experience, having been in toxic relationships, you don't really acknowledge that it's a toxic relationship, especially if you're so used to being in toxic relationships. So based on that, if there's a woman that comes up to you and she's your sister in Christ and she says, Carlos, I'm dating this guy, I just started dating him, oh my gosh, he's so great, but he's not a Christian. What do you say to her?
Well, hopefully she has girlfriends that she can approach and talk to them before she talks to me. Because I think they probably give her that side. For me, I would rather be talking to the guy that she's dating and get to meet him.
Because what?
Because I think that, for example, we're talking about what is a good man. And before Christ, I was told and I considered myself to be a good man, but I wasn't a godly man. So I was doing things in my own way and trying to achieve things in my own way instead of trying to achieve them God's way, and gave two totally different results. For example, I didn't serve, so I didn't tithe, I didn't go to church regularly. There's a few of those things that for me today, if my sister was dating someone like that, I've seen, well, those are red flags. If the man is, for example, not going to church regularly, then he maybe not be seeking God regularly, may not be in the Word regularly, and not be getting, maybe not even praying about the relationship, which is one of the huge elements. Another thing is about serving, and if the man is not serving God, he might not be serving you. So those are some things that I would. But again, hopefully she'd be talking to some of her girlfriends about this, and I'd be talking to the guy.
Oh, I'm sure she would.
I'm sure she would. Yeah.
David actually taught me something about, I guess, that answers that question, the pyramid you taught
What'd
me.
you teach him, David? Teach us. We want to know.
I've learned it from somebody else who was wiser than me. So I think what you're talking about is, so if you shouldn't be looking to date, theoretically, you should be trying to follow God and chase after God and seek God. And if you're doing that and she's doing that, you will, both eventually meet at a point where you're both seeking God. If you're trying to seek somebody else and they're trying to seek you, you'll meet and things will happen, but it's not going to be in a way that honors God.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're both, and then while you're going after God, you're going to look over and go, that person's really going after God. Okay, let me check that. I'm going to do my thing. And then, wow, that person still went after God. Okay. I want to get to know that person more. And then eventually your paths will cross. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And I just feel like to that girl that might ask, I'm dating this guy, he's awesome, he's got check, but he's not Christian. I think it just goes back to that. Like if you're running your race, like you're charging towards God and you're pursuing him with everything you've got, and he's kind of going off in this other direction maybe, even if it's just that part of life, like it's going to either veer you off of your own path, or just create other really kind of destructive things. And so, I think it's important that be something that's not even on the table or off the table for discussion. Like I just feel like if you're really pursuing God in your own walk, then you should be seeking somebody that's doing the same, because that's a hard thing to argue about in a relationship.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think depending on how well I know the girl who's asking, if it's someone who I feel like I'm comfortable enough sharing with and being honest with, if I'm just being real, it comes down to my first thought, whether I say it out loud or not, would probably be why. But
Why she's dating
a guy who is not a Christian or who's not following Christ, or at least trying to get to know Christ. Now, obviously, before I was following Christ, this wouldn't even have been an issue, because I never cared what someone's beliefs were, even like whatever, they might have had a different religion. It didn't matter to me, because that wasn't something that was central to my life. But now, knowing what a relationship looks like with Christ at the center of it, and being in a marriage that has Christ at the center of it, I don't know how I could do it without it. So I would ask a woman, like, if we're just being straight up honest, I was like, okay, so what's more important, not being lonely or following Christ? Because if Christ is the most important person in your life,
Great question.
and you're dating someone who has no relationship with Christ, has no desire to have a relationship with Christ, then your actions are saying that Christ is not the most important thing in your life. So it just comes down to, it's just, are you talking about it? If you list your priorities, are your actions and who you're dating in line with those priorities? Because I think a lot of times you see men and women who are more selective with what they eat, what they wear, what car they drive, than who they spend time with, who they spend late nights texting with, who they're chatting with online, who they're hanging out with, who they're going to the movie with. Because it's just like, oh, well, I want to go to the movie, I don't want to sit at home, so this person's probably not a healthy person, but he's going to take me to the movies, I want to get out of the house, I don't feel like being alone tonight, or I just checked Instagram and I saw this couple, so I want to get out, I'm going to go on a date, it doesn't mean anything. So it's just like, so basically you're making an unconscious decision to waste your time.
Wow.
And I think that if God has plans for you, and you are trying to seek someone who is not seeking God, you're basically telling God, I don't care what your plans are.
Wow, so good.
That's awesome.
Right?
I mean, just
Mic drop.
now, honestly, if it's someone,
Yeah.
now if it's someone I don't know, I would say you should really talk to my wife about that, because you do a much better job of packaging it nicely.
Check out my podcast.
So, yeah, right. Yeah, just exactly. So.